Okay, we are picking up back with chapter 17. We are starting in verse 15. So, previous video was all about circumcision. Very fascinating stuff. Let us see what the Lord has to say to Abraham in the rest of this chapter. Verse 15. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai thy wife, thou shalt not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her, and give thee a son also of her. Yea, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of people shall be of her. Then Abraham fell on his face and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear? And Abraham said unto God, Oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. Okay, first, I think it's interesting on verse 17 where it says he laughed. There's an alternate Hebrew translation that it would be translated rejoiced instead of laughed. There is also a Joseph Smith translation that in fact changes it to rejoiced. So I find that interesting. I find that a fascinating one there. But this is fun. Abraham is saying, wait a minute, I'm 100 years old. Sarah's 90. Yeah, I know I had a kid when I was 86. So that was pretty good. I'm 100 years old now. There's no way. But he's not really saying there's no way. He's not saying there's no way. He's saying this is beautiful. When we change the word from laughed to rejoiced, if it's laughed, then he's saying there's no way, possible. We change it to rejoiced, and now we have Abraham saying, this is wonderful. God is going to give me a son. God is going to allow Sarah to conceive. But he still is a little bit skeptical on this, because he still says, oh, that Ishmael might live before thee. So, now, exactly what he means, is he still saying, oh, that Ishmael may be my heir, or is he just praying for Ishmael's welfare? But it is an interesting dynamic here going on. So, anyways, I'm just rambling now. So, verse 19. And God said, Sarah thy wife shall bear thee a son indeed, and thou shalt call his name Isaac. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant, and with his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard thee. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Isaac, which Sarah shall bear unto thee, at this set time in the next year. And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. So yes, I don't think Abraham was praying that Isaac would gain the birthright, but that Isaac would receive favor in the Lord's sight. The Lord would bless him as well, saying, "You're going to give Sarah a child. This is great, but don't forget Ishmael. Ishmael's also my son. Please, bless him too." And God says, "Look, Isaac's going to he's going to have the birthright, but we'll bless Ishmael too. Ishmael will still receive great blessings, but Isaac gets the birthright." And Abraham was satisfied with this. Okay, verse 23. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as God had said unto him. And Abraham was 90 years old, and 9, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael his son was 13 years old, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. In the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son, and all the men of his house born in the house, and bought with money of the stranger, were circumcised with him. Excuse me. So, we now have them actually performing the circumcision in compliance with the covenant that God has made. And you'll note, because Abraham is 99, Ishmael's 13. But this isn't just his immediate family. This is everybody in his household. And again, I will probably mention this several times as we keep reading, as we go through Isaac and Jacob and all that. These guys were all heads of large households. They were tribes of people. This is, when it says anybody born in his house, this is including his family, his servants, his slaves, anybody that was under his authority was circumcised. Those 300 soldiers that he took to the battle of the kings, they all got circumcised because they were of his house. So Abraham, as I said, he was probably over 1,000 people, probably over 1,000 men, plus women and children, were part of his tribe. And they were all circumcised. And when it says bought with your money, this is slaves. Yes, there was slavery back then. Abraham owned slaves. God sanctioned Abraham owning slaves. So, but it was not the same as what we had in the United States. Making a comparison between the two is not accurate. They had slaves. They weren't just servants. They were purchased. They were owned. Hagar was a slave of Sarah. But it didn't work the same. So we can't, calling it just, oh, they were servants. No, they were not servants. They were owned. They did not earn wages. But it was not the same. And we need to make a distinction here. But anyways, this second half is not quite as interesting as the first half. I'll put it that way. But it still has some interesting stuff. And when we pay attention to the details, we do get some good stuff gleaned from the history of this time period. But we'll leave it here and see you in the next one.